You can now support Ghost Maps on Patreon. Simply look for We Are HANTU or click the link in the description. Inspired by an account from C. Ghost Maps, entry 136, Daang Hari Road, Philippines. Alice pulls her bike up to the side of the road. As she shuts off the engine, we both dismount. Right behind us is our interviewee's car, which comes to a stop right behind Alice's bike. We're not heading to a coffee shop tonight. If you want to talk to me, Alice had told me a few days ago, it'll have to be while I'm interviewing someone. Alice is a collector, like me. Unlike me though, she prefers to collect the stories where they happened, which is why we're here in the Philippines, along Daang Hari Road in the city of Bacoor. The reason I want to talk to Alice is that I've been getting these terrible migraines for a while now. My doctor says that there's no physical reason for these attacks, which, considering what I do, means that it's very probably something to do with the supernatural. We'll talk after the interview, Alice tells me, as we remove our helmets. Our interviewee, Eric, steps out of his car. It's 10 p.m. and every minute or so, cars are still driving by us and on the other side of the road, just beyond the divider. And that doesn't seem to make Eric feel any better though. I don't think I've stopped anywhere along this stretch since that night in 2017. Eric is a creative director for a multinational ad agency based in Singapore. He made the move from the Philippines around 2012 and has been building a life for himself there since. Alice asks if being a creative director is as stressful a job as it sounds. He says, "Not really. I know it's supposed to be, but I've learned to prioritize what's important to me. One of those things," he tells us, is his family, many of whom live in the city of Tagaytay. That was where he was heading to on that fateful night. Before he can go on though, I fish out my recorder. Alice, noticing this, smiles and asks Eric if he can start from the beginning. Eric had arrived in Calabarzon from Singapore at around 11 p.m. At the airport, a driver named Roy picked him up in a blue sedan. Eric got along pretty well with Roy, bonding over a shared love of scuba diving and snorkeling. Living in Singapore for as long as I have, I forgot how easy it is to chat with fellow Filipinos sometimes, he says. By the time they were passing along Daang Hari Road, the pair were too lost in conversation to realize where they were. If they had, the conversation would have probably died immediately. This stretch has a notorious reputation within the Philippines. I'd heard that during the Marcos martial law era, bodies of those that criticized the regime would be dumped along this particular road, Eric says. The road had been upgraded since, but the spirits of those dissidents still haunt the stretch. But it wasn't a ghost that Eric encountered that night. It was something much worse. It was about 1:30 a.m. and the stretch was completely empty, save for Roy's sedan. Eric and Roy probably wouldn't have been shaken out of their conversation if not for the sudden appearance of an old woman. She looked like she was in her 80s, She constantly brushed her long, wispy white hair from her face as it blew across her face in the night's winds. She was hunched over, her body seemingly contorted awkwardly, and her clothes looked like something out of the 70s. The road was relatively well lit, so Roy spotted her from quite a distance away and slowed down. As the car stopped beside her, Eric wound down his window and asked the old woman if she was lost. She mumbled something hoarsely over and over that I couldn't quite hear at first, he says. He leaned in closer to the open window and finally caught what the woman was saying. Tulungan mo ako. Tulungan mo ako. Help me. Help me. Eventually, the old woman told Eric that she was from a nearby town and had lost something during the day. Eric asked if she needed a lift, but she just shook her head. So he gave her 100 pesos for a ride back to her town. Roy then continued driving on, but the mood in the sedan had shifted. Neither of them spoke. There was the sense of dread permeating throughout the vehicle. Eric was the first one to speak again. What's that smell? He asked Roy, sniffing, then gagging. Roy caught a whiff of the stench too. It was like rotting meat, Eric says, even now looking a little ill just from the memory of the smell. They realized that it seemed to be coming from the air conditioner, so Roy switched it off. He was about to wind down the windows when something caught Eric's eye in the rearview mirror. He grabbed Roy's hand and wide-eyed told him to keep the windows shut. Then he gestured to the rearview mirror. Roy saw it too. A woman, or half a woman. Her torso had separated from the lower half of her body. Leathery wings that looked like they belonged to a giant bat extended from her back. Her entrails dangled from the bottom of her torso, and her bare breasts and face were obscured by her long, wispy, white hair. Even from within their car, Eric and Roy could hear her growl hungrily as she chased after the sedan. Roy rammed his foot onto the accelerator and the sedan sped away from the creature. As Roy focused on escape, Eric looked around the car for something that could help. In the glove compartment, he found a handful of iron nails. I just grabbed all of them and started hammering them into the car's frame with my phone, he says. I didn't care if my phone broke. What good would it have been if that thing got to us? Near the end of the road, Roy took a sharp turn onto an intersection. As they neared a patrol station, Eric looked back to see that the creature was gone. Roy stopped at the petrol station. The pair took a minute to compose themselves before finally alighting the vehicle. There still was no sign that the creature was after them. But on the back of Roy's sedan, there were 3 deep claw marks, Eric says. He pauses for a moment, then adds, caught on the twisted metal of the marks was a 100 peso bill covered in blood. We asked the petrol station attendant about Daang Hari Road, Eric says. The attendant told them that Manananggal sightings were rare, but the creature has terrorized this stretch for decades. He heard a rumor that one of the women murdered during the martial law era was a black magic practitioner, Eric says. We ask if he's encountered the creature again since then, and he shakes his head. This is the latest I've been on this road in the last 8 years, he says, with a smile. Now, if you'll excuse me, I want to be off the road as soon as possible. We thank him for his story as he gets back into his car and continues his journey to Tagaytay. As we watch his car speed off, Alice asks me, "So, you say you've been getting migraines?" I nod. She looks concerned. I've known only one other collector who showed these signs before, she says. I ask if I can talk to him, but she tells me that he passed in the 90s. I point out that I still have my third eye and could maybe talk to this other collector. Don't, she says, curtly. She warns me that the migraines are just the start. Doctors never could figure out what killed that other collector, but Alice and others of our brethren knew better. She tells me that some people can only step beyond the veil of the ordinary so many times before it takes a toll. If you're one of these people, she says solemnly, you won't be able to be a collector anymore without dying.
If you want to discover more of Southeast Asia's other side, subscribe now and follow us on social media. You can also be one of our supporters on Patreon. Look for We Are HANTU or click the links in the description. Ghost Maps is a HANTU production created by Kyle Ong and Wayne Ray, with art direction by Jolene Lim, and recorded on Audio Technica mics.